What am I doing with my life? I'm about to harshly criticize Forrest Gump on the internet. I'm gonna get crucified! Forrest Gump was directed by Robert Zemeckis, the man behind Back to the Future and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, two of the most beloved films of the 80s. It stars Tom Hanks, Robin Wright, Sally Field, and Gary Sinise, and it tells the life story of a slow-witted man named Forrest, his up-and-down, on-again, off-again relationship with the love of his life Jenny, with the entire modern history of the United States serving as a backdrop. I know a lot of people love Forrest Gump, and of course, I understand why. It's a very popular feel-good movie, it's very accessible with a likable protagonist, and a slew of pop culture references. But for as long as I can remember, Forrest Gump always rubbed me the wrong way. Something about this movie just turned me off, and sometimes even infuriated me. Was there something wrong with me? Was I mentally ill? Was I just a dumb f*** with no taste in films? Well, perhaps. But allow me to make my argument. Welcome to this latest installment of Oscar Madness, also known as the 3 reasons why I don't like Forrest Gump. Oh god, this video is going to be the end of me. In order to salvage as much of my credibility as I possibly can, I'd like to start with what I actually liked about this movie. Forrest Gump, the film, not the character, is many things, but boring is not one of them. The pacing is great, things happen all the time, and the story is driven forward through constant shifts of setting and time periods. This leads to a fairly engaging watch, which is very important. Also, the film is well made on a technical level. It does have a few dated elements, like those horrible deepfakes that look more fake than deep, but for the most part, the film still looks good even today. It's really well shot, the frame is always packed with detail and movement. It always finds a way to be visually stimulating. It's just a shame that the foreground is dominated by the lame characters that we're supposed to care for, and also that we need to endure Tom Hanks' constantly irritating narration, but we'll get there. I'm not done with the good yet. The best thing about the film is the music. The original score by Alan Silvestri is wonderful throughout, and the soundtrack? Oh, Lynyrd Skynyrd, The Doors, Jimi Hendrix, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Buffalo Springfield, and more. That's a grade A soundtrack right there, 10 out of 10. And the last good thing I'll say about it is that the last 30 minutes, from the moment Jenny just shows up at Forrest's house, are very touching. And I'll go as far as to say that Forrest Gump, at least, sticks the landing. Too bad that in order to get to those last 30 minutes, we need to plow through 2 hours of garbage. Yeah, I think it's time to get to the bad. The 3 reasons why I don't like Forrest Gump, and why I think it's one of the lamest, dumbest, and least deserving Best Picture winner in history. No turning back now, let's get to it. The first reason doesn't actually have anything to do with the film itself, but I still feel the need to mention it. Forrest Gump was a terrible choice for Best Picture in 1994. I mean, Pulp Fiction and The Shawshank Redemption were right there! 2 films that I like way more than Forrest Gump. They may not be as technically impressive as Forrest Gump, but they were much more fascinating thematically and narratively, and I'd easily choose either one of them over the one they actually picked. Hell, The Lion King was released in 1994, and it wasn't even nominated for Best Picture, despite the fact that it too is way better than the winner. Why didn't they nominate The Lion King? The Academy has already shown they are willing and capable of nominating animated films for Best Picture when they nominated Beauty and the Beast in 1991. It would have been so cool if they'd have nominated The Lion King as well. It easily deserves to be, so I'd say it's one of the biggest missed opportunities in the Academy's history. But to get back to the point, the fact that Forrest Gump is surrounded by superior films and yet won the award over them adds to my contempt for it. The second reason is that the film treats its audience like morons, or at least that's the impression I received. I mean, how else could you explain the fact that the entire film is based on basically a single joke, repeated ad nauseum? I don't even know if joke is the right word to describe what I'm talking about, so allow me to elaborate. We get an entire movie where Forrest explains something in a very simple, dumb, and childish way so that we, the audience, can get the reference and say, "Oh, I get it!" This is the entire movie. This isn't an exaggeration. The entire film is just Forrest saying something like, "Today a man came to our house with a guitar case. Later I found out people call him the king." And then we go, "Oh, I get it, that's Elvis! Or maybe he says something like, there's a bunch of people in the next building with flashlights and they're keeping me awake. And we say, oh, I get it, that's Watergate! At the beginning he says, my great-great-grandfather started this club called the Ku Klux Klan. They'd put white sheets on their head and act like a bunch of ghosts. And we go, oh, I get it, that's racist!
That's racist!
Do you get the picture by now? Do you understand why someone might find this infuriating? What, you want some more? Here, I'll give you one more! There's a scene where Forrest goes to the Vietnam War and he says, we always kept looking for a guy named Charlie. And we say, oh, I get it! It's the Viet Cong! Shut up! Holy shit! It gets old so fast! And the worst part of it is that the film takes itself completely seriously. It thinks it's telling something profound, like it has a super meaningful message that the world must hear, when it couldn't be further from the truth. What starts as a nice little story with quirky humor quickly devolves into one of the most obvious films I've ever seen in my life. And it's not only because of this quote-unquote joke. The third and final reason why I don't like this movie is that I didn't care even a little bit about the two lead characters. You know, the ones that you're supposed to feel for the most. I will give the film a little bit of credit and say that I did at least care about the side characters, like Forrest's mom, Bubba, and Lieutenant Dan, the best character in the movie by far. But I'm sorry, that's just not gonna cut it. If your main character and your main character's love interest aren't interesting or likable or relatable in any way, then your movie is gonna suffer for it. Jenny was by far my least favorite character in the movie. The film tries to make us care for her by showing us how much suffering she had to endure in her life. But that sort of emotional manipulation isn't gonna work on me this time. Oh no, Jenny was just a frickin' bitch. There, I said it. Forrest really deserves better than this. The way her relationship with Forrest is portrayed made me think that she never genuinely cared for him, at least not in a romantic way. And yet, she keeps teasing the guy, letting him reach second base, emotionally embracing him in front of a large crowd of people, randomly entering his life only to exit it again soon after. Even at the end, when she marries the poor guy, it never felt genuine to me, rather that she only did it to secure her son's future after she's gone. What an asshole. Forrest at least gets sympathy points, and he's not nearly as unbearable as Jenny is, although his obsession with the woman doesn't help. No, Forrest's problem is that, well, he's an idiot.
Stupid is, stupid does, Mrs. Blue.
Now, before you point your fingers at me, I'm not judging the guy. All I'm saying is that it's hard to take a film seriously when your main character doesn't even understand half of what's going on. Because the film is viewed through his perspective, the whole film kind of feels like a joke. He takes everything in a mostly lighthearted way, but that takes the weight out of certain moments and scenes that really needed it. I think Lieutenant Dan's story could have been much more impactful if it was a part of a movie that actually cared about him. Going back to Forrest, he keeps mentioning people that were shot, like the Kennedys, John Lennon. What was up with that John Lennon scene?
No possessions? No religion, too? Well, it's easy if you try, Dick.
Oh, I get it! It's the lyrics to Imagine!
That's enough! That's enough!
Anyway, we get it. People get shot. It's bad. We know. Also, his narration is all over this movie. Remember when I said that Kevin Costner's narration in Dances with Wolves was the worst narration I've ever seen in a film? Yeah, I may have spoken too soon, because Tom Hanks really gives him a run for his money in this movie. Just unbearable. Forrest Gump was a pretty awful experience for me. It has so much in it that I can't stand, even after multiple chances given and multiple rewatches. This movie is just not for me. At least it does have some redeeming elements to it. Like I said, it is well made, and at least the last 30 minutes were decent. So it's not a straight up disaster, it's not a terrible movie or anything of the sort. There are things that I appreciate here. But the bad is so bad that I would not be bothered even a little bit if I were to never watch this film ever again. And that's all I have to say about that.
That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, we get it, Forrest. We get it. Forrest Gump is a film that I have a personal issue with, but I can't, in true consciousness, rank it below other films that are just worse on an objective level. It is still fairly low on my list, and it's easily the worst Best Picture winner of the 90s so far. Let's see what the next one has in store for us. Up next is the 68th Best Picture winner, the Mel Gibson historical war epic Braveheart. I saw it once a long time ago, but I have fond memories of it. Let's see if it still holds up. Check back again for the next video of DB Reviews Oscar Madness Marathon and subscribe to my channel so you won't miss a thing. Thank you all very much, and let the journey continue.